Hi, I'm Deborah Holdship, editor of Michigan Today. In this episode of Listen in Michigan, my guest is Brian Williams, assistant director and archivist for university history. Brian works at the Bentley Historical Library, which is home to all the historical records of the university and the archives of the athletic department. It's one of the largest archives of its kind in the country. The Bentley's massive collection of materials involving the history of the state and its people includes more than 45,000 linear feet of primary source material, 10,000 maps, and 80,000 printed volumes. There's 1.5 million photos in its archive. I mean, I use the images all the time in those heritage stories by Jim Tobin, so you've seen plenty of them. And of course, there's an extensive digital collection as well. But it's always the most fun to visit the Bentley in person. It's one of those mysterious places where all the interesting stuff takes place behind the scenes. So, like, you give your request to a staffer, and they return later with a pushcart loaded with boxes pertinent to your search. Never are you invited to join the staffer back there, which just enhances the sense of intrigue. You get the message that something very special goes on back there, and it does. Experts are restoring precious documents, rebinding books, digitizing film, preparing items for proper long-term storage, and a host of other things. There's even a vault where they store some of the Bentley's most precious artifacts. The original handwritten charter to found U of M, Fielding Yost's first contract, original correspondence from characters like Alfred Hitchcock and John Dillinger. Once I learned about this vault, I decided I needed to get inside there. I mean, that's the beauty of my job, right? So I asked Brian Williams for a tour. I grabbed my recorder and I headed to the Bentley. Now, to get to this vault, you must first enter the inner sanctum of the archivists.
It creaks a little bit.
Though not as magical as I originally imagined, this behind-the-scenes area is still incredibly impressive. Seemingly endless rows of black metal shelves hold like those gigantic ledgers like Ebenezer Scrooge would use, and countless dusty volumes. There's Governor's Row, where the papers of Michigan's leaders reside. There's a section for really old student scrapbooks. There are canisters of film and boxes of correspondence and drawers filled with negatives. You just keep walking past rows and rows and rows of those black metal shelves, and eventually you find yourself at the vault. And a quick apology to those of you with wild imaginations like my own. The vault is really just a locked metal cage, but it's still super cool. It's several feet long with shelves on either side of a single aisle. So come with me as Brian walks us through, pulling down boxes from either side and showing off the goods. There's plenty of ambient sound, some intentional, some not so much. And I apologize in advance for saying wow about 40 times. Here's Brian.
We're in the vault in the Bentley Historical Library, and it's kind of where the best lives. But yeah, it's kind of lined with boxes, volumes. Some things are in special cases that kind of denotes their significance. That our conservation staff built a tray handle. You just see
all right.
Old spines of books.
Oh, yeah.
That say albums. A lot of these albums are just pictures of generals, officers, men in Michigan regiments. A lot of Civil War letters and correspondence. One of the most interesting Civil War things is the diary here of Lucius Shattuck. He was a soldier from Plymouth, Michigan, and he served with the 24th Michigan Infantry Regiment, part of the Iron Brigade. And the diary has a bullet hole through it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's in this special box that's been made.
It's a special tray case made by our conservation staff.
It's the size of a moleskin.
And little daily penciled entries. And
wow.
These are for 1863. And so he's recording everything in here. The last entry he makes is June 30, and he talks about the battery moving into place outside of Gettysburg. He is killed the next day, July 1st. You can see where the bullet went through and partly shattered this diary. It's just an incredibly dramatic artifact of that.
No kidding.
He was a lieutenant in the 24th, and they went into position, and the first day of Gettysburg, he was killed.
Like even just seeing photographs, but then seeing actual artifacts like that's even more intense, you know?
Yeah, it really brings it home. It kind of makes it personal. It's just looking at everything that's here on the shelf in these boxes. They're really rare, particularly valuable documents. There's trading journals that go back, fur trading journals that go way back to the pre-statehood. We have records about the exploration of the state of Michigan. notable celebrities, literary figures, correspondence with all of these people. The founding documents of the university are here.
Cool.
Gold medals from the Olympians that were athletes at the University of Michigan.
I mean, it's amazing all the stuff that you have. And even when you come in the front of the library, you don't realize how much is behind the scenes. Like, I had no idea till I came back here with you guys.
Yeah, until you're inside the Bentley, it's hard to tell the scope of it. Just from the parking lot of the street, it looks like a single-level building. Once you're inside, the stacks of 3 levels. We have 50,000 boxes here on site.
Wow.
We have an off-site facility as well. So the wealth of material is amazing here in all kinds of formats: audio, visual, paper, photographs, maps, books, ledgers.
All kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
All kinds of secrets and mysteries. You know, you never know what you're going to find in here.
That's right.
I mean, you usually start thinking you're looking for one thing and you wind up finding something else more often than not, you know?
Yeah, a lot of it's really serendipity. As you're going through something, it looks pretty innocuous, and then you'll find some gem in there, just buried in the middle of that. One of the examples is the Gerald Ford letter we have when he wrote after his campus visit here. And we're just going through the records of the board and control of intercollegiate athletics. There's all kinds of details about scheduling, logistics, when games will be played, what the contracts will be, who the opponents will be, and just all kinds of really mundane matters. And then there's a letter from a student writing about his visit, how much he enjoyed that, and wants to be a Wolverine. And you look at the letter, and it's signed by Gerald Ford on stationery from the high school in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're the official archives for the University of Michigan, as well as collecting statewide. So that's how we have Civil War diaries and things of that nature. But we have the founding documents of the University of Michigan.
Wow.
It's in this special leather-bound tray case. It says papers relating to the early history of the university, presented by C.I. Walker. They're in this elaborate tray case.
And who was C.I. Walker?
He was a regent for the University of Michigan, a lawyer. And yeah, it's encapsulated in Mylar. And so it's, inside the vault, encapsulated in Mylar, in an acid-free folder, in a special box. So you can tell it's really significant. There's something special about it.
Yes.
So it's a handwritten draft, and it's the Act to Establish the Cathalpestimiad, or University of Michigania. It's from 1817, and the handwriting is Augustus Woodward. And so when you think of, Woodward Avenue in Detroit, it's named for him. And this is basically our Constitution, the founding document laying out the vision in, 1817 in Detroit of what the University of Michigan was going to be.
That's amazing.
So yeah, just holding this and realizing, this is this is the beginning of the entire University of Michigan. And just to see that is a really powerful thing. And in that same box, we have some records, again, from the Board and Control of Intercollegiate Athletics.
Oh, yes.
And it's just a simple one-page document, Michigan Athletic Association letterhead, and it's got a nice little logo seal colored in blue. But it's a single page dated October 4, 1901. It's the football contract for Fielding H. Yost. So brought him here to Michigan, signed the contract October 4. It's just a single page, but it says that, Mr. Yost shall coach to the best of his knowledge and ability the University of Michigan football team. The salary's paid out in 5 installments. The first are $300, and then it increases to $400. And then the key is a $1,000 payout at the end of the season.
Big
December
bucks.
1. Yeah, to make sure he stayed to the end of the season. He had never been at any place more than one season. And so they weren't sure if he was going to stick around. He ended up sticking around for quite a while.
Well, when you're getting paid that well, what can you do, right? You got to stick around.
Exactly. And I try and imagine, what the contracts look like now with all the riders and addendums. And,
No kidding.
Sure,
this is just like 3 or 4 paragraphs and the money spelled out in a signature all on the front side of one sheet of paper.
Yep.
That's really great.
And they add that they'll cover, a sum for traveling expenses and for him to stay in Ann Arbor and living expenses while in the city. And so Yost really did literally roll into town not too long before the season, start training the team, and then he would leave at the end of the season and go to his business enterprises in West Virginia. It was quite a while before he actually lived in Ann Arbor for good.
Okay.
Rolled through that season, scoring a point a minute. So the contract for the next year gave him a little bit of a raise to $2,750.
Ooh.
I like to come to the vault when I've been working on too many mundane things or doing things that are all digital. I like to come down here, kind of get recharged, and see all these original documents handwritten. I mean, it really is a privilege to work with these, preserve them, and have that responsibility to make sure they're available to future generations, that 100 years from now people can see that founding Constitution.
Yeah.
Establishing the university, that it's here. So it's part of an awesome responsibility we have as archivists.
And I love to see the old book bindings and whatnot. Albert Kahn's ledger. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we built a few buildings on campus.
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah, we'll go down here and I'll show you a couple of the really notable autographed.
Oh,
items.
yes.
So this is a box that has the intriguing title Special Correspondence.
Oh.
And so why is it special?
Got to be something good
and
in
you
there.
just kind of browse through all the folder titles on here, and you just see really notable, John Quincy Adams, Susan B. Anthony,
Wow.
George Armstrong Custer, James Buchanan, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Clarence Darrow. He was attended law school here and was involved in several notable trials.
Yes.
Some correspondence, I think, writing back to law school colleagues. Even,
John Dillinger.
John Dillinger, the outlaw. John Dillinger, he's basically on the run being chased by police, and he stops to dash off a note to the chief of police in Port Huron, Michigan. And he says if he's going to get arrested by anybody, he really thinks it should be this Lieutenant Don Leonard, who's been after him for quite a while. And he also, he wrote several letters like this to Henry Ford praising the car because he was fleeing all these police
And the
people
Ford,
chasing him.
Ford
and
really
he's
helped him out?
Yeah, he's like, your Ford's really held up well. And just dash off a note to tell you that.
So did this come through someone else's papers, or?
Yeah, we have the papers of Don Leonard, who's referenced
Okay.
in that, and he was worked in law enforcement for most of his career.
Okay.
So I was talking about, mentioned earlier that letter from Gerald Ford. This is it. The letterhead is South High School of Grand Rapids.
Dearest Mr. Kipke.
Yeah. I want to thank you and Mrs. Kipke for entertaining me so wonderfully during my visit to Ann Arbor. I had a marvelous time and fully enjoyed every moment of the stay. If there's anything I can do to repay you, I certainly would. And he just, goes on to say how much he wants to be a Wolverine. And, and one of the real treasures here are we have the papers of Arnold Gingrich. Mm-hmm. He grew up in Grand Rapids, and he graduated from Michigan in 1925. In 1933, he founds Esquire magazine and starts publishing, serial stories and articles. We ended up with several manuscripts from Ernest Hemingway that were just short articles published in Esquire. Yeah, so it's amazing to see these articles.
With the edits and the...
Yeah, straight off the typewriter. You think this is Ernest Hemingway's original typewritten copy. Has all the editorial marks of Arnold Gingrich and others. Some of them are Hemingway's own edits.
Oh my God. That is wild.
The Butterfly in the Tank says it'll be in the December 1938 issue. Night Before Battle by Ernest Hemingway.
Wow.
And then this is probably the most significant. This is the draft for the Snows of Kilimanjaro. Wow. And so it originally says Story by Ernest Hemingway, and then it has the annotation A Long Story. And so it started in the August 1936 issue. We found all this, correspondence with F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway, Louis Satchmo Armstrong, just, all the figures of the day. So I think there ought to be a film star named Ann Arbor. She should be blonde, beautiful, and caressable. Sincerely, Alfred Hitchcock. This is, here's another interesting folder, Ty Cobb.
Oh, wow.
To Charles S. Kennedy. He's a doctor in Michigan, a U of M graduate, and a regent. And so he happened to be the doctor for Ty Cobb, the Baseball Hall of Famer. And so these are all these letters he's writing back and forth, and they're always in green ink, handwritten, green ink. Tyrus R. Cobb.
Wow.
He's in Menlo Park, California at this point. And this is a pretty neat letter, January 11, 1948. In here, I was glad to see Michigan dominate over Southern California. So he's talking about the Rose Bowl win that Michigan had just played out there. The people out here in California think they are more or less dominant in athletics, and they gloat so about it. So it's good to see them get their ears pinned back. So he was, really thrilled to see that Michigan had done well and won the Rose Bowl out there in California.
Sincerely.
Yeah.
So much more interesting than just a bunch of emails on a screen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, again, that physical nature, just seeing that, being able to, hold this letter.
I wonder why he chose to write with green pen all the time.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Guess that was just his thing.
Yeah, that was his thing. But yeah, they're written, several months apart, several different years, and they're all in green ink. So he definitely was partial to that. Alexander Graham Bell.
Wow.
And they're written on, Bell Telephone Company letterhead. So he's writing to Professor Watson at Michigan University, and this is 1878. And he had published an article about the invention of the telephone, and so Alexander Graham Bell is intensely interested, and he's writing about the rival claim that's going on by Elijah Gray over who invented the telephone. There's some competing narratives about who truly invented it. Yeah, just a real, just kind of amazing. John.
Jack Dempsey.
Yeah, sports figures, literary figures, Charles Dickens.
Charles Dickens.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that one is.
That's a short one. What does he say?
That was hard to read his handwriting. You can definitely make out the signature.
No kidding.
But yeah, that cursive I can't read. Yeah, I'm not sure what that script is.
That box is full of treasures.
Oh, here's Langston Hughes, poet. And so it's a typewritten letter, which is much easier to read than the
Yes.
Dickens. Dear Dick, this is Dick Boys, who was a professor of English that he's writing to, and so it's a letter thanking him for hosting a visit. He closes by, I hope I'll get back to Ann Arbor before the next centennial. It's one of my favorite campuses. I like it. That's kind of neat.
Thank you, Langston.
Sincerely, Langston. Yeah.
I like it,
Yeah,
period.
glad
The
to
end.
think he likes Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of these letters with Robert Frost. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
He was a poet in residence. And this is all the correspondence with President Marion Burton and Robert Frost, and even a few galleys for some poems he wrote while he was here.
Wow.
So these are some of the back and forth about negotiating him, the poet in residence. Or I think Frost even referred to it sometime that he was Michigan's idle fellow. And so he wasn't formally teaching, although he did an awful lot of teaching during his years here. He's appointed in 1921 and then comes here again in 1924. He lived out on Pontiac Trail, and the house he lived in has since been moved to the Henry Ford Museum, Greenfield Village. But yeah, just thinking of these, all these letters in Robert Frost's handwriting.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then the typewritten response from the president, and then a handwritten reply from Frost.
My dear Frost.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell as they go on, it gets a little more casual as they become better friends. So it loses that formal tone that you
Yes.
see in some of the early ones.
I think that's so neat that he was here.
This is, let's stop here. This is Lyndon B. Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
What we have here is the original note cards. They're index cards that are typescript of the commencement address that Johnson gave here in May 1964. And it's at that address that he's outlining the Great Society speech. He's reading from a teleprompter, and this is kind of the backup in case something went wrong. But yeah, these are the original cards. They're held together with a little ring. Archivists realized it was a really notable speech, and we should document it. And so they wrote and asked if they could have a copy of his speech. And so it's a really remarkable letter that came back with it, typed, says, White House letterhead. But it says, after a great search of inside suit coat pockets, the cards that the president used for his Ann Arbor speech were found. So it was a pleasure for him to sign them and send them to you. So
What a kick.
yeah, and so you can just kind of visualize that too. They're going through all this sport coats looking for the pocket and figuring out where they are.
At last.
And we actually have a video of Johnson at the Michigan Stadium giving the speech, and we can see, before he's boarding the helicopter, we can see it looks like that he's putting these in that coat pocket.
Wow.
So it's pretty neat to have it from that angle.
History making for sure.
Yeah, I imagine the Lyndon Johnson Presidential Library is probably envious that we have those here.
I'm sure they are. Yeah, sometimes it's surprising what we have that I'm sure others would like to have in their own collections.
Yeah. Martin Luther King. So these are letters signed Southern Christian Leadership Conference letterhead. Martin Luther King, President, Ralph Abernathy, Treasurer, Andrew J. Young, Executive Director. So he's writing to Eugene Ransom at the University of Michigan. Ransom had extended an invitation for King to come and speak at the university, but this is actually a letter of him declining.
Okay.
So,
1964.
yeah, King says, because I'm away from the church so much during the week, I've had to adopt a policy of not accepting more than one Sunday engagement away from the church in any month. Here's another interesting collection, John and Lenny Sinclair. They're,
Oh, yeah.
kind of 1960 radicals here in Ann Arbor, and managed MC5. So a lot of these are original posters. This is the original poster for the
That's
Free John
awesome.
Sinclair political rally.
10 for 2, baby.
Yeah, big.
Wow.
Big concert for John Lennon and Yoko Ono and friends.
At Chrysler. That's so wild.
And so this is original Gary Grimshaw.
Oh, yeah.
So the colors and but yeah, being an original poster, so you can see it's also encapsulated and
Yes.
stored in the vault, because that's fairly valuable. That's one of the more collectible. But yeah, a lot of these are concerts at the Grandy Ballroom, other
Oh,
places in
wow.
Michigan.
How
So,
fun.
yeah, it's not all just these 19th century handwritten things.
We got some
These
good
colorful
60s
posters.
psychedelia.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know John
Yeah.
Sinclair's in here in the vault, and John Lennon with Ty Cobb and Gerald Ford and
Yeah.
Martin Luther King.
Yeah, kind of keep
Good
on
company.
trucking alongside all these other things.
Exactly. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little excursion, and I hope to have you back next month. Till then, please visit michigantoday.umich.edu to find more Listen in Michigan podcasts and to subscribe. You can find the podcast at Simplecast, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. Just search for Listen In, Michigan. All right, that's it for now. Take it easy, and if you ever meet that blonde, beautiful, and caressable film star Ann Arbor, you know what to say. Go Blue.